Chapter 6. Body Language. What makes eye contact so important? How do you shake hands? What attitude do you have when you are in a conversation? Why is a smile so important? After reading this topic, you will be more aware of how you deal with your appearance. You will better understand that nonverbal utterances are many times more powerful than spoken words. When you're done with this topic, you shake hands in a good way and you'll know why everything is easier when you smile. Why are we now going to spend an entire chapter on eye contact, shaking hands, posture, and smile? What makes this so important to spend so much time and attention on it? What is its influence on the success or failure of the network? To start with the latter, that influence is very big. So big that even the best conversation can completely collapse with a single wrong glance or gesture. But rest assured, if you consciously use the insights from this chapter, it will make your conversations better than ever. You will get more results and it will be even easier to network in a relaxed manner. What matters here is the power of nonverbal communication. So those are all forms of communication where you keep your mouth shut. So you don't use your voice. And that is one of the hardest things when you are a driven and passionate entrepreneur. Something you always stumble over in practice and always find out too late, once you've talked someone's ears off. At least that's how I experience it. Nonverbal communication predominates. If you are talking to someone, know that ultimately only a small percentage of your spoken words have an impact on the listener. The way you pronounce the words, the intonation, is already more influential. But the influence of the words and the intonation together is still less than the influence of nonverbal communication. The influence of nonverbal or non-spoken communication on the listener is more than half. And if you want, you can even make that influence of nonverbal communication the full 100% of the entire conversation. Do you want proof? Okay, stand in front of someone in a room and quietly say, "Now get out." What is happening? Not much. The other looks at you surprised and will ask, "What do you mean?" How so? You only use words, not much happens. Now you do the same, only with the most furious intonation. You roar out, "And now out." Can you see the effect? People are startled, hesitate for a moment, but probably move to leave the room. The intonation has the most influence here. But we go even further with our proof that you can have more influence without words. You stand a few meters from the person, clenched your fists, make yourself as big as a ferocious gorilla, all the blood pumps to your head, and with a bright red ferocious head you assume a position that you are going to completely ram the other person and moves towards him. Only in your mind do you think, "And now out." You don't say a word, but how quickly do you think the other person will leave the room? So right away. All in all, 100% influence with nonverbal communication. Tip: if the other person is bigger and stronger than you, leave the room yourself quickly. Now it is the intention that you attract and connect people with the insights you gain in this book. It's about networking, not to chase away. So against that background, this example may seem a bit odd. But what matters is that you have experienced in your mind the power of nonverbal communication. And you can make that power work for you in a positive way, and that starts with eye contact. How do you make eye contact? With eye contact you can communicate with one or more people from tens of meters away. Add an appropriate gesture and you can even conclude financial transactions without saying a word. This is what you see happening at auctions and on trading floors where people are still trading on the floor. Those people on the trading floor also shout a lot, but most deals are done with gestures. How do you use this for yourself when networking? How do you get more new contacts more easily and quickly with the use of eye contact? That is something you can learn, or rather experience, with a simple exercise. Try the following at a networking event. You stand somewhere where you have a good overview of all those present. You look around calmly, relaxed, and scan the entire audience, as it were. You will find that you automatically get eye contact with others who are also looking around. Once you have that, nod kindly to that person. You do that with the words in mind, "I'd like to talk to you." You do this scanning and making eye contact so often that you have had eye contact with a number of people 2 to 3 times. Then you get moving again and mix with the audience again. What happens next is that within minutes you will be addressed or put in contact with those people you have had eye contact with 2 or 3 times. Your wish, "I'd like to talk to you," has been heard through eye contact and is filled in. Don't be surprised that while you are scanning, someone immediately comes up to you to introduce themselves. The effect of eye contact can be so powerful in combination with your wish. How do you shake the other's hand? Update, March 2020. In this part 1 describe my view on what I consider very important behavior and politeness, shaking hands. But when writing this book, I could never have imagined that we would come to a time of 1.5 meters of society and avoid physical contact. What a major social impact this will have. How do we confirm our personal contact now and in the future? Is shaking hands coming back, or is there an alternative? How are you in this yourself? What are your ideas? But now back to the text written before the corona crisis. And then you are in touch and you shake hands. That is a moment where you can also influence the entire conversation non-verbally. Shaking hands is the moment when you let the other feel who you are. It confirms or detracts from the impression you radiate. Shaking hands should always be done with appropriate force. Appropriate force. Don't squeeze the other person's hand, but don't be too limp either. There is nothing more annoying than such a limp hand where one only holds the fingers of the other. Also be careful with a handshake that is too firm, because it may just be that the other person has an injury or sustains an injury after meeting you. In either case, that does not contribute to your network goal. A small detail, but it always contributes. Make sure you have warm hands. Especially if you have just come from outside when it is freezing cold. Warm up your hands before shaking the first hand. The pleasant warm feeling that this gives the other person is immediately associated with your personality. What else do you do when shaking hands? You shake hands with 2 hands, but only at the right time. When getting acquainted, it is best to use only 1 hand. Straightforward with the right firmness as described. You always look the other person straight in the eye. Do this sympathetically with a smile. And do something else. You are going to do something that you may find a bit strange, but believe me, it works and contributes directly to the positive impression you are going to make. While shaking hands, looking at the person with a correct smile, mentally say a positive sentence that you sincerely mean. Pay attention in mind. When acquainted, that sentence can be, "I really enjoy getting to know you, I am very curious about who you are and what you do." The reason why you should do this is because the other person subconsciously reads your interest in his person in your eyes and experiences it positively. Conversely, you may recognize this better. Have you ever shaken hands with someone whose mind is very different from yours? How did that feel? How did that come across to you? How did the conversation go? Are you still in contact with that person? If you then shake hands and say your positive sentence in your mind, you clearly pronounce the name of the other person that you read on his badge. You say, "Nice to meet you," and then say your own name. Please note, you start with the name of the other person. I know that's not common, but there's a reason. You increase the chance that you will remember the name because you use 3 senses in the correct order. You read the name, you pronounce the name, and only then do you hear the other person pronounce his own name. You immediately distinguish yourself because the other person will be a bit surprised that you pronounce his name before he himself. Of course, this only applies if you can read the name on a badge. If you can't do that, do the following. Shake hands, wait for the other to say his name, repeat that name, and then say your name. By immediately repeating the name, you immediately give the other person all the attention and confirmation that you have understood it correctly. This will make it easier for you to remember the name. You also avoid the awkward situation that you did not understand someone's name correctly. This prevents you from wondering what that person's name is during the entire conversation. When do you use 2 hands when shaking hands? You do this when you leave or at meetings where you already know each other. Using two hands confirms the status of the relationship. This requires some insight, and I will explain that now. If you observe people and watch them shake hands, you will see that the closer the relationship, the closer the hands of the handshakers are to each other. Pay attention. When people don't know each other, if you have little or no interest in each other, shaking hands is limited to one hand. As soon as something of a relationship is established, the second hand is quickly involved. That relationship can already be established after completing a short network conversation of just a few minutes. What you see is that when one shakes hands, one or both parties bring the second hand to the other's shoulder. That continues with a gentle pat on the shoulder with that hand, or a modest pat on the back with that second hand. But this can go further. If you pay close attention, you will see that the degree of appreciation of the relationship or contact can be expressed through the position of that second hand. You will see the lower the second hand from the shoulder touches the arm of the other, the more there is a closer bond at that moment or desire to do so. 3 clear positions in relation to appreciation are the shoulder, which indicates a valued pleasant contact. The elbow indicating a desire for a closer connection or more than usual appreciation. Grasping the other's hand with 2 hands. The latter indicates a confirmation of the close connection, and an expression of great confidence in the person. You often see the latter happen when a case has been decided or when a lot of personal emotion is involved in the meeting. So much for shaking hands, because there is more, namely your posture while networking. What does your body position say? You now know how to make eye contact. You now also know how to shake hands. But those are just parts of the whole. These parts come together in your entire posture. Your total attitude determines everything and makes the difference between difficult networking and relaxed, easier networking. With your attitude you can completely determine the course of the conversation. If you move forward a little, you reinforce the speaker's feeling that you are interested in him. If you move too far forward, that sense of interest quickly turns into an unease of being too close and can even seem threatening to you. If you move too much back in the middle of the conversation, a feeling of disinterest can arise. Then you also have the position of your arms and legs. Crossing your arms while standing quickly gives a closed, distant impression. If you are visibly splayed on a chair or sofa, that is not very charming. There are many positions and postures that you can adopt and apply to each position, both pros and cons. But to keep it simple, remember this: what you do too much is rarely good in attitude. A good attitude that is best to look at yourself in front of the mirror is a neutral attitude. You stand up straight, shoulders back slowly and lower again slightly. Tuck in, but avoid standing with a gorilla chest. Let your arms hang loose and your hands are hooked together with your fingers relaxed like a bowl. The insides of your hands are up and slightly forward. You form a bowl with your hands, as it were, in which you can receive all kinds of things. Because your fingers are intertwined, you immediately prevent nervous fiddling or worse, nail biting. I call this explicitly, because I do it unconsciously myself. What is the power of a good smile? You now have everything in place and are fully prepared for the correct application of nonverbal communication. Now there's one more thing you need to do to complete your pursuit of relaxed, easier networking, and that's smile. Always greet people with a smile. Be sincere about this. Support your smile with the phrase you say in your mind: I like meeting you. People with a smile are always addressed more than people without a smile or sullen face. Also watch out for negative thoughts. If you think, there you have him again, then know that you radiate that loud and clear. Don't think you can hide that. The only weapon against it is a positive thought such as, now I'm going to have a nice conversation with you, or something like that, as long as it's positive. Make sure you have a genuine smile. You will notice what that is when you start to smile. Now do it. Do it with your whole face. Start laughing with your mouth closed. Make that smile bigger and bigger until you feel yourself tightening your facial muscles. When you reach that moment, relax your face, but keep smiling. What remains then is a relaxed smile. If you immediately feel very comfortable, then that's right. That's the power of a good smile. Summary. With just eye contact you can make contact with people from tens of meters away. Add a few gestures to it and you can even have a remote conversation without saying a single word. What your eyes say you can confirm with it on a good way of giving a hand. You give a hand with 2 hands. You communicate with your whole body. Measure yourself in a neutral body position. When you smile, your eyes automatically glow, your voice becomes friendly and you become many times more attractive. What comes next? Chapter 7, Listening and Talking.